year is 2016, and creepy clowns were lurking in the dark. The crisp October air in Vestal carried the scent of damp leaves and wood smoke, a perfect backdrop for the haunted coal house walk. Joseph, working his first job out of college, shepherded his group of preteens toward the historic building. As a DSP, he was used to the chaos, but tonight, the atmosphere felt particularly thin. The legend of the iron grave inside the coal house. A storyteller in a tattered conductor's hat leaned into the flickering lantern light. This trail wasn't always for jogging and bikes, the man rasped. In the early 1900s, two iron beasts screamed toward each other on a single track. One was hauling a shipment of TNT. When they collided, the roar was heard all the way in Binghamton. They say the blast was so violent, pieces of the crew were found across the river in the village of Endicott. He leaned closer, his eyes catching on a boy named Leo, who was watching with wide, unblinking eyes. Legend says a ghost spur of the track still exists, hidden deep in the brush where the maps don't go. The train is still trying to finish its run. The lame haunt, the walk itself, was a disappointment. Joseph followed the kids down the first stretch of the rail trail, passing local teens in store-bought masks, jumping out from behind oaks. Their jump scare and Pennywise impressions barely startled the kids. The grand finale occurred as the path veered toward the parking lot. Two teenage girls stood by an old, dented CD player. They pressed play, and as the tinny intro to This Is Halloween began, they started to sing, out of tune and painfully awkward. "Can we go now?" Leo asked. Though his gaze wasn't on the girls, he was looking back into the dark woods. The midnight run, 2 hours after lights out at the group home. Joseph's phone shrieked. Leo's window is open. He's gone. Joseph didn't need to check the GPS. He drove straight back to the rail trail. The night air was a cold blade against Joseph's lungs. As he pulled into the rail trail parking lot, he spotted the small, defiant silhouette of Leo standing near the coal house, a cheap plastic flashlight trembling in his hand. "Leo, get in the car," Joseph commanded, his voice tight with the residual fear of the river monster's shadow. Leo didn't flinch. "I'm tired of being the kid from the home, Joseph. I'm tired of the rules and the mid-passes and the locks on the doors. I just want to find something real. Normal kids go on adventures. Normal kids find the legends. Just let me be a normal kid for one night." Joseph looked at the boy, saw the desperation for a life that wasn't defined by case files and care plans, and felt his resolve crumble against his better judgment. He nodded. "We look for 10 minutes, then we're gone." The phantom spur. They pushed past the manicured path, cutting through thickets of overgrown briar that seemed to claw at Joseph's work slacks. Deep in the woods, where the sounds of the Vestal Parkway faded into an eerie, pressurized silence, they found it. The rails didn't look rusted. They looked fresh, humming with a low-frequency vibration that made Joseph's teeth ache. A massive steam engine, blacker than the surrounding night, hissed at the end of the line. The passenger car door creaked open. An invitation in the dark. "See," Leo whispered, his face lit with a terrifying joy. "It's real." They stepped onto the iron plates, and the moment their weight shifted into the car, the door slammed shut with the finality of a coffin lid. The train lurched. There was no sound of an engine, only a rhythmic, metallic heartbeat. The The conductor's truth, a figure materialized at the end of the aisle. He wore a uniform charred to his skin, his eyes glowing like dying embers. He held a silver pocket watch that dripped molten metal. Tickets, the conductor rasped, his voice a chorus of 100 screaming voices. We're getting off at the next stop, Joseph said, stepping in front of Leo. There are no stops, the ghost replied, his charred face twisting. They told you it was an accident. They told you the TNT just sparked. Lies. The switch was thrown by design. A man in the village wanted the insurance, wanted the blood, wanted the chaos. He murdered us for a handful of gold, and now we are bound to the iron until the debt is paid. The train began to accelerate to an impossible speed. Outside the windows, the Vestal woods blurred into a streak of fire and shadow. You have until the tunnel of the Red Gate, the conductor warned. Once the engine tastes the fire of the portal, your souls are signed to the manifest. You will haunt these ties, screaming into the October wind until the end of time. The choice, up ahead, the hillside began to tear open, a jagged, vertical rift of orange and violet flame roared to life, casting a hellish glow over the cabin. Leo, we have to jump. The door is unlatched. Joseph grabbed the boy's arm, pulling him toward the rushing wind of the open vestibule. Leo looked at the portal, then back at the spectral crew, who were now standing in the aisles, not as monsters, but as a family of the forgotten. He looked at Joseph, his expression settling into a haunting calm. I won't be a normal kid back there, Joseph, Leo said softly, pulling his arm away. I'll just be another problem to solve. Here, I'm part of the legend. I'm finally going somewhere. Leo, no. Joseph lunged for him, but Leo stepped back into the shadows of the car, his small hand raised in a slow, tragic wave. With the portal roaring like a jet engine, the conductor placed a heavy, charred hand on Leo's shoulder. Joseph had no choice. As the heat began to blister his skin, he threw himself from the speeding train. He hit the gravel of the hidden spur, tumbling through the brush, until he slammed into a fallen oak. He scrambled to his feet, screaming the boy's name, but the hillside was silent. The portal had closed. The tracks were nothing more than rusted, broken metal, buried under decades of dirt. The aftermath. Joseph sat in the shadows of the old bear's den, the skeletal remains of the local landmark, offering him a grim sort of comfort. He looked out toward the water, where the rotted wooden boat from the river monster incident still sat, half submerged. He was a man haunted by two worlds now, the depths of the Susquehanna and the phantom rails of Vestal. The sight. He can no longer look at the hills without seeing the ripple of the portal, the sound. Every time a modern train blows its horn in the distance, Joseph hears the underlying scream of the TNT blast, the guilt. He carries Leo's intake file in his glove box, a reminder of the one kid he couldn't pull back from the edge. I watched him from the tree line as he stood up, his silhouette looking older, heavier. He walked back to his car to head to his next shift, a guardian who knew exactly what stayed awake in the dark. I can't help but wonder, after the river and the rails, what other of Southern Tier's nightmares is coming for Joseph next. Joseph's presence, the weight of his grief, and the raw truth of his stories acted like a spark in a dry forest, though he walked alone. His visits had unknowingly revitalized the old spot. In the shadows of the rotting wooden boat, new symbols began to appear. Small stone cairns, a carved bear's head on a nearby oak, and the faint, lingering scent of a campfire that shouldn't have been there. The legacy of the den was no longer just a memory of the past. It was a promise. A new generation of outcasts, those who felt the hum of the phantom tracks and the pull of the river, had begun to find their way here. Joseph was the bridge, the unintended guardian, who proved that even when the world forgets you, the land remembers. The torch had been passed, and the bear's den was breathing once again, a sanctuary for those who carry secrets too heavy for the city lights. The moral, the price of loneliness. As I watched Joseph's taillights fade into the Vestal fog, the true horror of the night became clear. This wasn't just a story about ghosts or hellish locomotives. It was a testament to the price of loneliness within a broken system, the system's failure. Leo didn't choose the ghost train because he wanted to die. He chose it because the real world offered him nothing but a series of rooms he didn't own and a life governed by clinical files. To the system, he was a placement. To the train, he was a passenger, the illusion of choice. In a world that treats vulnerable children as numbers, the promise of a legend becomes more attractive than the reality of being forgotten. Leo's choice to haunt the tracks was a tragic pursuit of agency. A boy deciding that an eternity of screaming steam was better than a lifetime of quiet invisibility. The burden of the witness, Joseph, the DSP, represents the human heart caught in the gears of that same system. He is the one left to pay the emotional tax, carrying the haunting whistles and the cold river spray while the world moves on, indifferent to the souls lost between the official stops. The cost of a society that fails to truly see its children is a landscape littered with phantom tracks and grieving men. As long as there are kids who feel they have no place in the light, the fiery portals in the hillside will always find a reason to open. What happens to the man who guards the gate when he realizes the gate is always open?